Welcome back, everybody, to a long overdue episode of the Orange Crush podcast presented by Chick-fil-A. Guys, baseball season's here. Some of those games, they start a little early. Why not go to Chick-fil-A and support Herb Tyler? Get yourself a chicken biscuit. Be the king of your tailgate starting now. David, we've got a packed week ahead of us. This is going to go live on Monday as we're recording this. And man, we got baseball, we have basketball, we have spring football starting in February, which is strange to me even still. And then soon, we're going to have March Madness in the ACC tournament. David, are you ready to rock and roll?
Let's go. Look, starts with Winthrop in baseball tomorrow night. Clemson baseball, we'll get to that in a minute. Clemson against Notre Dame basketball, we'll get to that in a minute. Starting Wednesday. Then, of course, you've got spring practice starting Friday. I'm guessing we will get our first look at a lot of the new guys on Friday afternoon. We'll get the first part of practice open to us. And then those Gamecocks come calling Friday evening at beautiful Tiger Field, Doug King Sports Stadium. It's the annual rivalry series. First game in Clemson, second game down in Greenville, third game in Columbia. We will be at all three of those games. We will be at spring practice. We'll be at basketball. But let's start with basketball. Clemson, Tim Beret, first of all, was not able to be on the broadcast this past Saturday. Coach Jim Davis took his job, took his place, did a fantastic job. Tim should be back for his Notre Dame Fighting Irish Wednesday night. But Tim and I were texting about how this was really one of Clemson's toughest remaining tests before the ACC tournament with an SMU team that scores, 82 points a game. And, you think, man, Clemson was, I think, a half or a 1 point favorite going in to the Big Moody Coliseum and just absolutely lays waste to the Mustangs. And now all of a sudden you've got a Clemson team that's up to 22 in the net ranking. They are one win away from getting that double bye in the ACC tournament, which is huge because then you only have to win on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And, this is a team's playing well. You just talked to Brad Brownell. What did he have to say? You're on the phone with him.
Yeah, so one of the few things I wanted to ask was, first of all, could he provide an update on Christian Reeves' status, who missed Saturday's action? Yeah. And I think for Reeves, he's been sort of the 10 minutes a game kind of guy, not going to be earth-shattering, but we did see a little bit of that against SMU where the size mattered. Being able to throw Reeves out there and just give a different look is going to be important, especially when lock-in. Miles Foster and Chauncey Wiggins all had 2 fouls entering the second half. So they were having to do a little bit of shuffling, but still, when you shoot the breaks off of the building from three-point land, especially with Jaden Zachary going a nice 5 of 5 to start off his afternoon, you're able to overcome it. And Brad just was not able to provide something. He says he's cautiously optimistic about Reeves. If I had to guess, that probably indicates he's not going to suit up against Notre Dame, but it's going to be a much smaller team compared to SMU's few bigs that they hold. And you're back home. And Little John, a little bit more comfort, a little bit of rhythm. But the other thing that I asked him, and I thought it was really interesting, and something that he's harped on all season, is I asked him what's sort of the challenge for these last 4 games, where this is a community that's ready to get to March. They're ready for the ACC tournament. There's no ifs, ands, or questions about where this team stands. They're going to be in the tournament. They're going to be in the big dance. The question is, who are they going to play? And so I asked him, what's maybe the challenge of navigating that? You're playing your best basketball right now, but it's a community that's ready to get to March. They're ready to fast forward a few weeks. And so he just sort of relayed what he talked about with the Duke game, where this is a veteran group that doesn't look ahead. They're focused on just today. How do we get better today? And I think it's fascinating with this type of group where you have a mix of players like Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin who have been there, done that. But you also have guys who are older who haven't been to this tournament. And so it's sort of interesting to see that there's a lot of focus with this group and a added sort of mission of we could play for an ACC title here in the regular season here. They need some help. Obviously, with Duke needs to drop a few more games, but they're in the mix. And David, another little added note, if they win on Wednesday, Brad Brownell will reach his most wins in his regular season tenure with Clemson with 23. Did a little research after the SMU game, found that out. And they could potentially get to the most wins in program history with another run here. So this is a group that I've been saying they have potential to be Brad's best team. I think they might be. I really do.
Obviously, people ask me all the time, how good are they? And I say, well, I think they're They're definitely good enough to make the Sweet 16. I think they should, and then from there, it's how hot are you? Can you make an Elite Eight? Can you make a Final Four? I think they can, and here's the thing. We talk about this all the time. When you get to the NCAA tournament, it's all about guard play, and do you have older guys? And they've got both. And I love it. It starts with Notre Dame Wednesday night. Then they go to John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville Saturday to take on Virginia. Notre Dame had lost 5 of 6. They were in a little bit of a free fall. Somehow found a way to beat Pitt this past week. So for Clemson, it's a Notre Dame team that's maybe found itself just a little bit. People would say, hey, is this maybe a trap game? You come back home, you're beating the brakes off of people. Notre Dame's not that good. Well, they're still 6-10 in the ACC. I don't know. I think this, like Brad said, very veteran team.
Yeah, there's an added focus. And I think last year it's really interesting to compare. And in the tournament, too, when you're hot, also other teams need to be cold. And you got that with Baylor and New Mexico, teams that were coming in pretty on fire offensively. And they just run into the brick wall that is that defense. And last year's group did run into some landmines. They had that loss against Boston College. You sort of faltered against Georgia Tech, which ironically this team did as well. But there's sort of certain circumstances with that. But it felt like Georgia Tech this year specifically, and maybe you can count South Carolina at the beginning of the year, but I don't consider rivalry games a trap. That's just sort of the nature of that rivalry in that series. This group hasn't ran into too many of those where people are waiting for it to implode. You're waiting for everything to go wrong. And I think maybe Georgia Tech is that game. These Final Four, I think you just have to stay healthy. And that's the tune-ups of there's an added focus of if Duke falters a little bit down the stretch, they can be ACC regular season champions, which I don't believe has happened with Brad Brownell. It would be a pretty significant achievement and just continue to bolster what these last 18 months have been for Clemson basketball.
It's been a great run. We'll see how it continues. I love the fact that you touched on the rivalry. Now there's a rivalry series coming this weekend. Mm-hmm. Like we said, Clemson baseball. Let's touch on that for just a minute. Clemson goes out to Globe Life Field in Texas. They win 2 out of 3. They get smoked by Ole Miss in the last one. They come home, the Clemson Invitational. They win all 4 games, 2 against VCU, 2 against North Carolina A&T, or as Fred Cunningham said on the broadcast this weekend too many times, NCANT. And never mind. Anyway.
Just like that?
Just like that. Just I was ready to throttle somebody. Anyway, I'm kidding. But Clemson, South Carolina comes in. South Carolina hasn't played anybody. They had Sacred Heart, that great baseball program, and then the Milwaukee Panthers. They started off the season with some tough ones there. And then they've got a couple of Clemson cast-offs in Nathan Hall and Nolan Rocky in their lineup, doing actually fairly well. I get tickled at people who tend to react to baseball like they would football. Every game is its own season. They overreact. Oh my goodness, the offense is terrible. The pitching staff is terrible. I do have pitching concerns about this Clemson team. I really do. But you saw Texas A&M, the number 1 team in the country. They go out, they get beat by Cal Poly. They don't score any runs. Baseball, you got to give this thing like 20, 25 games to kind of settle in before you go, maybe this is who we are. We were out there. We watched him this weekend. How about Tristan McClatty?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, playing all over the field, third base, first base, outfield. Doesn't matter. Had himself a weekend. This is a Clemson team that I think once the weather warms up a little bit, they're going to score some runs.
Yeah, this is a really fun team to watch. And it's still, I think, important to note that this rotation is not yet finalized. So there's not a fluidity with this lineup yet. And so you saw, especially yesterday, where Bakich was playing around with the lineup. He was throwing Priest in there to pinch hit. You were throwing Josh in there to pinch hit. So you had a lot of different variety, a lot of different combinations. I don't think we'll get something finalized probably for another couple weeks. But another note on McClatty, I think it's really just yesterday sort of encapsulated the weekend he has, hits a solo homer, and then dives for the first plate for a tag. And it's just that really athletic play that you don't find with many people where you're like, that's the hustle right there for Bakich that he's looking for. Probably looking at that in film study going, I love that. Just don't get hurt, all right? Just don't try to bleed profusely all over our field, okay? But very impressive. I was most impressed with Legornik yesterday. Bounce back effort after
he
the schlock. he got a schlocking against Ole Miss, so it was good to see him bounce back and sort of he will be vying for a spot. But I think you have your Friday and Saturday spots. If you want to allude more on your pitching staff concerns and just sort of where you think this stands 7 games
Let,
in, and we know it's
let me
early, but still.
let me start with this. First of all, I think the transfer portal very good to Clemson. Back when I was doing a lot of Braves coverage, the Atlanta Braves had a coach who would look at guys around the cage, or we would talk, and he'd go, "That dude's a PGH." Now, my wife knows what that stands for. But if you call somebody a PGH, that's a professional GD hitter, right? That is the ultimate compliment. He's a PGH. They've got that in Dominic Listy and Josh Pano. And you look at Listy, they've inserted him at the top of the lineup. That's where he belongs. He doesn't go up there swinging out of his shoes. Cam Canarella has had that spot. Cam's a really aggressive hitter, and I love moving Listy into that spot, moving Cam down in the lineup where he can do damage. But he just gives you this great at bat every time. He's up there. He's seeing pitches. It seems like he's 3-2 all the time. Pano's kind of the same way. Just older players who know how to put together at bats. Love that. Pitching staff. Aiden Canuck fell in love with the changeup a little bit. He's got to get back to that fastball that he throws. He's kind of added, another little wrinkle in there. Cutter. We'll see how that works out. I think he'll be fine. It's looked to me like it's not a stuff problem. It's been a release angle problem for him. Just based off of what I've seen, he'll get the feel for that. I think he's going to be fine. Ethan Darden has come out and shoved for 2 games. Been really impressed with him. Justin Lagernick really needed to come out and throw well. I wondered if Reed Garris might be a guy, that they would consider. Jacob McGovern, they threw him out there this weekend to see how he would do. I love him. He hits his spots. I do think he's more of a spot reliever kind of a guy, kind of a change of pace dude you can bring in for an inning or 2. That's probably all you want. We'll have to see how this works out. I'm anxious to see who starts against Winthrop tomorrow night. I like this pitching staff. I don't know that if I don't know if I'm in love with it just yet. Lucas Malstedt has been really good in a couple of times he's come in. He's pitched multiple innings and shut things down. It's another older guy. They've got some. Joe Allen came in yesterday, did some good things, I thought. So I like it. We'll see if we're going to love it. I do know I love this offense. And then it's the Gamecocks. You're going to get your first taste of Fluor Field rivalry action Saturday. Are you looking forward to that?
I am, and it's exciting with this series too, especially where both programs are headed, both with tournament expectations. So it's always nice at the beginning of the year, I think, to get that level of competition where this will be South Carolina's first taste of that type of competition. Not trying to be slighting or anything. I know someone will clip that. But with Clemson getting that early non-con tests out the way, sort of what you do with basketball. You try to schedule tough early so you can get into a groove later. I did have one more question for you about the pitching staff, just because we like to defer to David Hood here, our local baseball expert aficionado. Could Sunday be more of a by committee type of thing where you're sort of having to rotate through a couple guys? If there's not a starter that maybe is solidified, is that an issue that they could run into, or do you think they have somebody that could be in mind? How dire is that kind of situation?
That's not good, because typically, in your midweek, that's when you want to run into your bullpen by committee type deal. If you don't have a starter, if you've got 2 midweek games, you're going to be using that bullpen quite a bit on Tuesday and Wednesday. You really want that Sunday guy. You really need one guy to go out there and give you 6 or 7, on Sunday. They really need to find somebody that can go out there and give them innings, because you don't want to, necessarily tax a bullpen, have a Billy bullpen big game on Sunday and then turn around and have to throw somebody on Tuesday and Wednesday. This week, just the one midweek game against Winthrop, then they should be ready to go for the South Carolina series. But yeah, you really want to find one guy and kind of get him tied down for that Sunday spot. I think that there are candidates out there, but just like he's done with the lineup, he's trying to mix and match and see who can come out there. He started Dillard yesterday at third, who was fine, but a couple of miscues getting in the game for the first time. McClatty has proven, I think he probably needs to be in the lineup. I've been impressed with Purify getting in the lineup. His swing looks a lot better than last year. I like Colin Priest. I don't think they necessarily like him against lefties based off of what we've seen so far. But that's a big old kid, man. If you're facing righties, you got to throw him in there. Love Pano, Listy, Canarella. I told you guys that the struggles of Luke Gaffney out in Texas were his swing is fine. Once he kind of settled in, he got the first homer of the year. I like this team, and I'm kind of anxious to see how they do this weekend and against Winthrop Tuesday.
A lot of competition here. We'll get rocking and rolling on that soon. What else is rocking and rolling, David? I wonder. Oh, I see. Spring football starts in February, which is just super odd to me because it could be freezing outside when we step out there for the first day of spring football. But a lot of optimism, a lot of expectations for this group, lots of returning production. And then you get your first look at Tom Allen in action. You get your first look at some of these mid-years who could play some, like Gideon Davidson could play a vital role, but he will be someone we have our eyes on for the next several months as we lead into the start of the season against LSU. But David, what are you sort of looking for day one? Always exciting to get the pads back on. I think for this group, it is going to be a long time coming. A lot of excitement from our TigerNet faithful who are ready to just get to football season. We got a couple of steps before we get there. But what excites you most about day one of spring ball?
I really want to see Tom Allen. Clemson hasn't had that kind of intense defensive coordinator type since Brent Venables. Now, look, I'm not digging on Wes, okay? I'm not trying to say Wes is who he was. And, but we've seen some videos already of Tom Allen kind of getting with guys in mat drills and showing that intensity. And I want to watch him out there. And, and so now there's a lot of moving pieces, though, that are new. Ben Boulware is going to take a more active approach with the linebackers, along with Tom Allen's son, Thomas Allen, who was with the Detroit Lions. He's coming in. He's going to help out with the linebackers. That's a couple of new pieces. Taj Boyd's going to have a more active role probably, with the quarterbacks than he's maybe had in the past. So, some new things to watch from the coaching front. There are some position battles you want to watch. Man, we're going to be out there front and center, seeing who takes that first snap with the running backs and the skellies, that quick, skelly that we get to watch out there. Who's going to be the first one out there? Is it Ezi Amume? It's probably going to be Keith Adams, the veteran, right? Followed by Ezi Amume, followed by Jarvis Green, followed by, Peyton Strecco, followed by, somebody else, and then Gideon Davidson will be last. How long will Gideon Davidson be last? I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe just the first day.
Maybe just the first day. And he was around. He got to come to a bowl practice, but it's still going to be the typical trying to get a drink with a fire hose, for him. And, I really want to see, some of these other kids, how do they look? Offensive line looks to be really set, but they've got some kids that need to come along. Just a whole lot of things to see. I'm glad there's going to be 4 of us at least out there. What are you looking for?
I think I want to see sort of the approach. I remember the first day of fall camp last year, and I think I remember either talking to you or another colleague being like, does it feel a little lackadaisical out here? Like, sort of like they're happy to be there. And you could see that in the second day that they noticed too, and they were ready to really light a fire up some. And so I'm looking sort of to see what the attitude and the focus is for day one. How does this group sort of approach this is a playoff team? How do they sort of carry that focus into spring ball? I think each day is so important. You got to set the tone early, even if it's on February 28th. And so I think you get that with that intensity from Allen, where you're able to be a little bit more accountable with this group. Not that they aren't already, but I think adding that sort of fire is important for a team that's trying to get back to the postseason. I think that's what the great teams do, is they're ready to rock and roll. Like the Super Bowl is on March 1st, and they're preparing for it. So that's sort of what I'm looking for from a team perspective. I think what fascinates me is how is Punter going to look, and what's the serious competition at running back and left guard. That's sort of my 3 that if I had to pick, if I could clone myself and put myself in 2 different other spots, that's where I'd put Grayson 2 and Grayson 3. But we can't do that. This isn't a TV show, unfortunately. That'd be kind of nice for efficiency, though.
Well, I know that when we get started, one of us is probably going to be over there watching the offense, and the other one's going to have to go see the defense because there's a couple of new guys over there by the name of Will Helt at defensive end, Alexander at linebacker. I want to see how, they look early on. We've heard some good things out of Will Helt. He's kind of assimilated himself into the team, and he's already got his best friends. Look like he's been hanging out with Cade Klubnik a lot, which is what a team leader does if you're Cade. But I can't believe, man, we're already going. Spring practice will fly by. It will end with the spring game in April. We'll have official visits lined up. Dabo's camp will be, 5 weeks later. Official visits, and then we will have a month before the ACC kickoff. So, shoot, man, we're all ready to start the 2025. Let's go.
Get me ready to roll. And we got also the Elite Retreat in 2 weeks. That'll be.
You and I have a Charlotte camp coming up with Under Armour that we're going to be going to, and that will be fun. A lot of recruiting coming up, a lot of football coming up, a lot of baseball coming up, a lot of basketball coming up.
There's
basketball,
no
baseball,
shortage.
Recruiting, football, a lot of fun.
We're going to be rocking and rolling through that rotation. It's going to be a little
So
bit of a
let me
total
ask you
whiplash.
this. Let's have fun here. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
You have been on the basketball beat all year, right? Clemson's picked for the NCAA tournament, and they go. I don't even know where the first round games are.
Yeah.
But they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Ooh.
And it's like, hey, Grayson, Dabo's going to do something different this year and let you watch a scrimmage. Are you going to the NCAA tournament, or are you staying here to watch a scrimmage? And by the way, Clemson plays their first ACC game that weekend.
Oh gosh, I think at this point I've done all the basketball games. I feel like I gotta go to the big dance. Like I'm sorry, Dabo.
Not a question, right?
I'll be like, thanks for the offer. I'm surprised you chose me to do this, but I
don't know, and that's not going to happen. I'm just saying, it's the time of year. You got to kind of pick and choose. Like, hey, what are you going to do? So for me, and what I'm talking about is Clemson has pro day on Thursday, a couple of weeks into spring practice. That's always kind of a big deal. But Clemson's ACC tournament will likely start that day. It might be the evening game. Maybe I can make it up there. Do I have spring football practice on Friday? Maybe. Can I stay for the ACC tournament? Is there a scrimmage on Saturday for football that I need to be there for? Is the ACC tournament championship going to be that day? Is Clemson going to be in it? And by the way, who's going to baseball? Hello, Brandon Rink. We're going to mention you on the podcast because now you're getting involved. I'm just saying this is the time of year that we kind of have to pick and choose, but it is so much fun.
I will say, if Clemson wins on Wednesday, they secure a night slot for that Thursday window. Right, so I think we could do pro day in the morning and then drive up to Charlotte and check out the ACC tournament. First, they're going to get a favorable matchup. I don't think it's going to be, and this is going to end up on some sort of famous last words, but they're going to get a favorable matchup on that Thursday game.
Yeah.
And so that's just also with the state of where the ACC is right now. They're a little beat up, very top heavy. Not as deep as you maybe would like if you're an ACC fan, but certainly, David, there's a lot to choose from. There's going to be tonal whiplash for the TigerNet people for the next month or so. We're going to be talking about recruiting one day, and then it's going to be like the swings for Clemson baseball, and then we're going to turn around and do 4 days of NCAA tournament stuff, and then this is my favorite time of the year. I'm so excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you are a big fan of that fun, then you should stick around here and check out. We'll have plenty of podcasts. We'll have plenty of episodes, plenty of stories. This is the place to be.
And we're going to do another podcast later this week, looking ahead to spring practice, some of the things we're looking forward to. And I would imagine at some point this weekend, after we've had a couple of days to digest some things, probably another one to talk just about what we saw at spring practice. So a lot of stuff coming up. Thanks to Herb Tyler, Chick-fil-A, Lisa Nason Accounting in Greenville. It's tax season. The IRS lost a bunch of people. Get your taxes done now. Go see Lisa. And then I'm going to tell everybody this too. I've got a lot of friends in the food business. If you like good food, don't forget Wilhelmina's Kitchen over in Pendleton, kind of Sandy Springs, Pendleton area. Great food. Go see Randy and Tweety there. Grayson, let's get it going, man.
Let's rock and roll, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this long overdue episode of the Orange Crush podcast. We're talking basketball, baseball, so many topics, so much fun, so many activities, to quote Will Ferrell. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe for more. God bless y'all and take care.